top United Nations envoy for the Sahel, has expressed concern over the continued suffering of civilians in the region due to rising militancy and frequent attacks. She says the humanitarian situation remains extremely fragile, with at least 20 million people at risk of food insecurity.
Sahel has suffered 3 major droughts in less than a decade. At least 20 million people are at risk of hunger and 5 million children under 5 are at risk of acute malnutrition. And the situation is now being compounded by unstable rule of law in many countries. In her first address to the United Nations Security Council since her appointment, Hirut Ghebreselassie decried the continued attacks in the region, especially in Libya, Mali and Nigeria.
In the little time that I have had in office, I was struck by the deterioration of the political and security situation in the region, notably in Libya, the enduring political and security challenges in Mali, the persistent terrorist attacks throughout the region, notably those carried out by Boko Haram in Nigeria, all of which continue to have negative consequences on civilians and local economies.
She also warned that high levels of youth unemployment in the Sahel increase the appeal of what she called a violent ideology.
The dramatic surge in the terrorist attacks of Boko Haram in northern and central Nigeria since 2013 is now threatening also Cameroon, Niger and Chad. Moreover, the conflict and state collapse in Central African Republic has led to higher instability in Central Africa and thus increased the risk of new connections between terrorist groups based in Sahel, Nigeria, Horn and East Africa.
Meanwhile, after a 3-day visit to Mali, the Director of Operations at the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said life-saving assistance is still urgently needed across the country.
It's the biggest operation that we have across the Sahel, in fact. There's almost 500,000 children under the age of 5, 85% of whom are in the southern part of the country who are at risk of acute malnutrition, and 136,000 of those are at risk of severe acute malnutrition. So it's a very grave situation for children in Mali. There's about 1.5 million people in Mali in need of immediate food assistance.
John Jing has been visiting Gao and Menaka, where he met displaced families and humanitarian aid workers. He has called for the country to do more to build a lasting peace. Susan Mongeli, CCTV.